Okay, we are live. Let's hit a countdown. We'll be back in 1 minute. Get ready. Well, hello there, Mr. Duke Lowrie. How are you today?
Good evening, sir. Good evening.
Let's see. Looks like you are somewhere near a famous mountain at the moment.
Man, I got to tell you, I am in bliss right now. I mean, just the air is pure, the snow. I mean, that's where I want to be.
Little brisk, huh?
Yeah, something like that.
Good
Well,
deal.
look, it looks like that came up fast. It looks like we're going to make Robert Wright happy again tonight.
Yeah, I'm still down to a 1 minute intro so people can grab popcorn, maybe tag some friends, and gives me time to kind of share things out on Facebook. So, trying to speed up the process a little bit. So.
Yeah, may as well. I was fighting to get Facebook up and get it shared out myself.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of little things that have to be in motion to make these live deals happen and make it look at least quasi-professional, even though we're kind of amateurs at doing this.
Well, like I said in that last show, I might be a Rhodes Scholar of Stupidville, but I do get out of the office every now and then.
Exactly. All right. So, I think I'm going to skip the intro or the long intros. I'm Rex Moncrief. I've got a tech company. I love to bass fish, love to hunt every now and then, but like to fish more. And obviously, I'm a tech guy and into politics. And Duke dragged me into it probably about 10 years ago to the insider area of politics, let's say. So, Duke, let's introduce you and we'll move into our topics.
Duke Lowrie, I love to fish and hunt too. Maybe I like to hunt more than I do fish, but love politics. And anyway, that's it.
Yeah, all right. So you sound good on my end. Ronnie Miller just commented that you're echoing. You sound pretty good on my end, so I'll double check the sound here in a second. All right, so I'm going to move over. Here's our topics for tonight. Let me see if I can get this stuff pulled up here on our fancy screen. And notice now you went from Everest to a gorgeous, maybe even better background scene.
Well, you can shoot birds up there around those snowy mountains.
Some high-flying geese and ducks.
Hey, and hopefully he'll comment whether that echo went away or not.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of listen. Maybe if you want to, if you can see the screen good enough, Duke, maybe just kind of run down a quick summary of our topics. I'm going to check on Facebook with my phone and kind of listen for a second. So.
Yeah, well, we got a really good show tonight. There's a lot of things that went on in Bossier. I mean, who knew? Thanksgiving, and hopefully folks had a good break, ready to recharge, ready to find out what is going on in Bossier, what's happened over the holidays, and what you need to know about what's transpired. We've got our finger on quite a few things that are going to be shocking to you. The Good Old Boy Network, they didn't take a break on the holidays. They got their fill of ham and turkey and stuffing, I think. And we got taxes. I mean, we've got threats and threats to people and their cohorts, and some of the other sagas continue on. Rex, jump in anytime.
Yeah, and so I just double checked your audio from my phone and sounds good. So, different people with different speakers and all that may hear it a little bit differently, but sound really good tonight, Duke. We've been kind of fighting that issue, and I pretty much solved it last show, and you sound crystal clear tonight. All right, so continuing back. Yeah, you know, of course, my normal deal, I can sit here and talk about the Cypress ordeal and drama for days on end. We're going to touch on some of that in the recent court case as well. And yeah, this GOB network, it's the good old boys. I think I'm going to have a t-shirt made that says, not a member of the GOB network. And we should just wear that around town.
Yeah, well, that reminds me of another t-shirt in the past that I had made, but as the old saying goes, I got the t-shirt. But
Okay.
hey, share my screen. This is where we're at in Bossier today.
Okay, so let's take a look here. Let's see. Let me get rid of that. Oh, yes. Butting heads. That looks like two animals butting heads. Whatever could that mean?
You know, I mean, you got a rhinoceros and you got an elephant. I mean, and I see this going on across the country right now. Don't you?
Yeah, and, you know, I just want to say one thing real quick, too, is that, I don't know, the rhino term has become so diluted because, or in my opinion, because everybody calls their opponent, if you know, they're a Republican, their opponent's a Republican, the first thing they're going to call them is a rhino. And so people know that actually means Republican in name only. But the problem that I have is a lot of people can't even determine or define what it means to be a Republican these days, and everybody throws around the conservative term, and they can't really define that or clarify what they mean. You know, well, I support the military and I love God, and so therefore I'm a conservative. It's not the way it works.
Well, Rex, just this week, I saw somebody put, elect these conservative leaders. You know, if you're running for an office and you're a Republican, you're, no matter what, you're a conservative, and no matter what, you're a leader, whether you've done a damn thing or not.
No, you're right. It's just like by default, you get a stamp put on you. Bam, bam. Or you think you get that stamp put on you.
So we've got a lot of friends that are watching that have followed the Cypress Bayou saga. And, you know, this week, a lot of questions were asked of, you know, well, what can we do? You know, and that image right there says a lot to me about the subject.
Well, it does, and I'm going to flip. Well, let me get back over here. All right, so here's some things that folks can do, and we're going to generate a list here in the next, hopefully in the next few days, might take about a week, of some simple things that folks can do out there that are maybe watching this. They read the newspaper, they might read the Inquisitor every now and then, they watch the news, but they don't really know how to get involved. First thing is, if you've got something going on or something that you find out about or you've got a question about or whatever, send us an email to bossierwatch@gmail.com, or if you want it really anonymous, make a Proton Mail account, takes like 3 minutes, and send an email to bossierwatch@protonmail.com. Those are down at the bottom of the screen. And send us the information. We'll either look into it, we'll reply back to you or whatever. So that's one thing that you can do. Number two is join some Facebook groups, you know, like and follow the Bossier Watch page, of course. Join some Facebook groups, reach out to your friends, and share the message. The key to all of this is educating the public. It's like this good old boys network. You know as well as I do, Duke, that we all talk about this in the back rooms of political meetings and all that, but it's one of those things that, you know, you don't generally see this in the newspaper. And basically, the good old boys network is been built over decades and decades and decades, and it's not going to get fixed overnight. But, in my opinion, step number one is what we're starting here, which is educating people in Bossier Parish about what's going on and how some of the, what I love to call shenanigans, are playing out in politics around here, and letting the actual voting public see and hear about what really goes on.
And the Good Old Boy Network, in a lot of cases, are friends, family, neighbors. I mean, they're people you know and deal with day in and day out. You know, Are they a bad person? In most cases, no. But there is a system, that, like you said, has been established over decades of just the way business is done and the way things are done, and unpeeling that thing, you can't just do it overnight. And for people that don't understand, the thing is you've got to start reading between the lines, and you got to start connecting the dots. You've got to start understanding, why is somebody describing people as conservative leaders when they've never done a dadgum thing in their life for a quote unquote conservative cause? In fact, in most cases, they've done a lot to the detriment of a conservative cause. If you
Well, that's a perfect segue for me and our topic number 2, Taxman Rimmer. Now, here's the deal. I've met Doug Rimmer a couple of times, nice guy, but the problem is it circles right back to what we're calling the good old boy network and rhinos. And again, rhino is an overused term, but Doug Rimmer claims to be a conservative, right? But here's the problem. How can you square up supporting raising the gas tax 23 cents a gallon and call yourself a conservative?
Wait a minute, Rex. At the first Bossier Parish Republican Executive Committee meeting, he said, when he was vying to be the chairman, he said that there were rumors about him supporting a gas tax, and he said that wasn't true.
Well, if he called it a rumor, that would insinuate that it's not really true. Maybe it's, what we call in the campaign business a whisper campaign, right? You put something out there and just hope it catches a little bit of traction, and then everybody talks about it and it blows up. But generally speaking, a lot of times those whisper campaigns aren't necessarily true. But what if the person actually said it on a radio program?
I don't know. I think maybe we should let everyone hear it themselves. And
I agree. Let's let them decide for themselves. So here we go. Let me cue this up. This is Doug Rimmer, who is the chairman of the Bossier Parish Republican Executive Committee, basically the Bossier Parish facing Republican Party. He's also a police jury member and has further political aspirations. And let's see what Doug thinks we should do about our taxes.
Will Doug Rimmer consider increasing our gas taxes?
Well, I'll consider it. I think that's one of the things that we should have done back in the 80s when the last time they passed it. They should have indexed it to inflation or something. But the bottom line is we've been robbing Peter to pay Paul, and Peter's broke.
They have also mentioned a 23 cent a gallon gas tax increase. You think that's way out of line?
I don't think it's way out of line. It's high. When it goes down 20 cents, if that's when we could do the tax. But we're going to look at all of it.
So what would you say to that, Duke? Is it a rumor, or is that that was his voice. It's on Keel.
It sounds like a conservative leader to me.
Right. And he's so conservative, he wants to wait until gas prices go down, and then he can jack the tax back up.
Now, what I really want to know, now everybody watching just saw that for themselves or heard it for themselves. What I want to know is, he said that he was asked to run for the Bossier Parish Republican Executive Committee or for the chairmanship. I'm not sure which. I want to know who asked him to run. I know what the rumor mill is of who it was, but that's what I want to know.
Very interesting. So let's kind of educate folks a little bit. Why would somebody want somebody else to run for office? I mean, what is the purpose of that? Why do people try to, I don't know, manipulate who's running and do that sort of thing? Why would somebody ask him to run?
Maybe they're wanting to control the endorsements so that they can tell the public that we need you to support these conservative leaders, whether they are or not, so that if they really aren't conservative, they wouldn't get called out, maybe?
Maybe so. I mean, let's look at the facts. The facts are Doug Rimmer's, and he's actually, look, full disclosure, Doug Rimmer is my police juror for my district, all right? But he's on the police jury. He's now chairman of the PEC. Now, and I gotta say this, as far as I know, I think he follows the rules all the time on the PEC, but he's chairman of the Bossier Parish PEC. He's running, and in full disclosure, against me for the Republican State Central Committee. These are the Republicans that go to Baton Rouge and help, let's just keep it simple, help set policy in the direction of the state Republican Party. And, you know, I've heard that he's got even more aspirations. It would be like Doug and other politicians do this too. It's like there's a pecking order, and then once you get to a certain position in that pecking order, you use the offices as stepping stones to further benefit yourself. Am I too far off on that?
No, you're dead on the money. You're dead on the money. I mean, as you know, the rumor mill has it that the person that's running against me, for example, for the Republican State Central Committee, is possibly the one who recruited that conservative leader.
What? You've got to be kidding me.
That's what the rumor mill is that, Allie Feaster Smith, that she recruited or was part of the recruitment of Doug Rimmer to do it.
Well, okay, so for people who are sitting there going, what in the heck are you guys talking about? Why would Allie Feaster Smith do this? What's her pecking order in the Republican Party and how things work?
Well, she is the legislative assistant for Raymond Cruz, you know.
Wow.
And I haven't seen either of these folks involved in the Cypress Black Bayou
Missing in action.
debacle.
Debacle. Drama, debacle, shenanigans, all those great words that are fun to say.
That's one of them Rhodes Scholar words there.
Yeah, right.
I didn't get that from Halton.
Right. So, but you bring up a good point. So far, the only elected official that has really been engaged in this Cypress drama, debacle, shenanigans, has been Representative Dodie Horton. And Dodie's a super nice lady, and I think that her heart's in it. We don't always agree, but her heart's in it and all that, and she's definitely been into it. And I'll give Robert Mills a little credit. He did come on our show and did a great interview, and he gave his opinion about the Cypress issue, so at least he's aware of what's going on. But you're right, it's been silence from the rest of our elected officials, and they all seem to be kind of tied together, maybe at the hip almost.
But quote unquote conservative leaders, and
well, all right. So let me pull up one thing. I'm going to clear this off the screen, and let's see here. District Legal and Labor. So I'm going to go ahead and share this. This is from the Cypress District P&Ls. This is 2020 over here on the far right column, and 2019 and so on. So you see that this arrow is going from legal over to $202,590.70. That is the amount of money as of November that the Cypress District had spent on legal fees alone. And if you look down, you'll see their payroll just to run the park is $445,379.54, and the park has been closed since August, I think. I think they closed the gates around August, middle end of August. But how conservative is it to waste $202,000 on legal expenses for the park? I mean, this is getting ridiculous, and our politicians, again, on one side, are completely silent, and trust me, there are a lot of people that are noticing that, and they're not happy, and they vote.
are you talking about our conservative leaders again?
Absolutely. I'm going to put conservative in air quotes, though, okay?
Well, I mean, and some of them are lawyers, right?
Some of them are lawyers. And, you know,
We're
I
going to
hate,
get to them, aren't we?
yeah, and I hate to disparage too many lawyers because, you know, I've got some lawyer friends and all that. But the truth is, the lawyers are the ones that really know how to game the system.
Now, I'm going to talk about one that's out there that's working the system, and we haven't really brought him up too much, but he's one of those guys that kind of is behind the scenes and anoints people as conservative leaders. Richard Ray. You heard that name, hadn't you?
Yeah, I've heard that name once or twice.
And we could go back to the story about making Democrats run as Republicans one day before, and anyway, but that's another story. But hey, I want you to share my screen real quick. I got a little short snippet to show you.
Okay, so let me get over here and let's share Duke's screen. There we go. Uh-oh. May have to crank the volume up. Play it one more time. Crank the volume up and play it one more time.
All right.
Well, the audio's not coming through great. So anyway, go ahead and tell us the significance of that clip.
Well, you know, the point of that's a classic Western there, and that little scene of, you know, listen here, Mr. Kansas law dog, law don't go around here. It kind of reminded me of some events at the Benton courthouse this past week.
Well, imagine that. So yes, let me segue into that. So I'm going to bring up on the screen, you know what, I'll tell you what, here's what I'm going to do. First, I'm going to play a clip from a police jury meeting a couple of months ago. All right, and I want you to listen carefully. I've played this, I think, a couple of episodes ago, but it's just about a minute or so, so listen carefully to this.
Last time you came, you had a letter that gave the district attorney so much time to bring a lawsuit over the subject. That's the lawsuit.
So what does this mean? Does this mean
that the district attorney has asked a court to determine whether the attorney general is correct or not?
So, did you catch that last part? That is
I caught it.
Okay, that is Patrick Jackson. He is a assistant district attorney here in Bossier Parish. And look, generally nice guy. Honestly, I like the way he helps kind of coordinate the police jury meetings. He's very professional to people, really truly is when they come up to speak. But the catch to that was, he said that they were trying to determine if the attorney general was correct or not. Not whether Robert Berry was legally able to hold dual offices, which he still is, by the way, but whether the Attorney General is correct or not. Now, this ties back to the Good Old Boy Network. And so let me kind of summarize this a little bit.
Was Doug Rimmer there?
Doug Rimmer was there at that meeting. Now, I'll give Rimmer a little credit where it's due, because I've spoken in front of the police jury and several other people and all that, and Rimmer did stay engaged and listening to that conversation. I'll give him credit for that, but here was the quandary, and here's why the Bossier Parish police jury, at that meeting, Patrick Jackson, through the DA's office, filed a lawsuit against Robert Berry and the Cypress District. The actual dual office holding or incompatible office statute is against the individual, not the organization. But they chose to file the lawsuit against Robert Berry and the Cypress District. Now here's the catch to that, which is not what was asked, by the way. Renee Hall had asked the police jury to ask for Robert Berry's resignation, nothing about a lawsuit. So that's not what was asked in the first place, but literally, the police jury and Patrick Jackson decided to do a good cop and bad cop routine and let the DA's office be the bad cop and file a lawsuit to give them political cover. And you're about to see why right here with this screenshot that I pulled up. This is one of the pleadings and paperwork turned into the court in the recent Robert Berry dual office holding case. I want you to notice something. The signature on the left, do you recognize that name? Not the signature, but the name.
I see the print underneath, but
Right. That would be Ron Machota. Now, Ron Machota is a legendary attorney around these parts. I don't know what his batting average is, but it's pretty high up there in court cases. He's a high dollar attorney, but he gets whatever done. All right. Well, so you would think that Robert Berry would have to pay Ron Machota quite a bit to help defend this case. I've had a couple of other attorneys around the area say, hey, this would probably be like $10,000. But because the Bossier Parish, because the district attorney's office filed a lawsuit against the district and Robert Berry, Robert did hire Ron Machota, but you can look right here, Alex Vazella from the Ayers law firm, the Caddo Parish law firm, who was paid $200 and something thousand this year alone by our tax dollars, our Bossier tax dollars, going to Caddo law firm. She is literally signing Ron Machota's name in these pleadings. And look, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out. She's doing the pleadings, or their office is, and they're just signing his name to it, which means our tax dollars and all the businesses in the 64 precincts or whatever in Bossier Parish out of the 80-something that pay millage and all that to the Cypress District, our tax dollars are paying to defend the guy that our tax dollars are actually suing. It's like this crazy nightmare of a lawsuit. You can see it right here.
So I don't understand, why is our conservative leaders, just okay with all this?
It's the Good Old Boys Network. They're friends. It's the same reason they had a fish fry out there, even though the park's closed, but it's okay for them to have a fish fry out there and invite, the Bossier Parish Police Jury. I think the city council was invited, and I know Robert Berry was out there rubbing elbows and hobnobbing and doing all that. So it's just gone beyond Thunderdome.
But we're taxpayers. I mean, we're supposed to be the people that are being protected.
Oh, no. I think you have it wrong. I don't think that, we're supposed to be protected from anything. And look, the truth of it is, a lot of these folks and players that we're talking about in this whole shell game, they honestly don't think they're doing anything wrong. They think all of this is just okay. This is all just par for the course. Look, the judge in this case, Charles Jacobs. Now, I'm not saying he did anything out of line. I think he was wrong. But he is the brother of Andrew Jacobs, who is an assistant district attorney. Andrew Jacobs was Robert Berry's lawyer until August. He was literally at some of the Cypress meetings.
Now, all right. So let's go back a little bit. So what else has happened this week?
What else has happened this week?
So you're talking about the judge and a case, and I don't think you've completely covered it.
Get me on track.
Well, so what is the status, the updated status of, let's bring it full circle. What is the updated status of Robert Berry and dual auditory?
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, and I should already have this KTBS article pulled up, but the status is that
since everybody's working against the taxpayers, I mean, the only person outside of our area that's unbiased on the issue was the Attorney General from South Louisiana that looked at the case and called the balls and strikes. And so
okay, so good segue and way to tee that up for me. Perfect. So here's the deal. There's two lawsuits, or there were. One, the DA's office versus Robert Berry and the Cypress District. The Attorney General was going to file a lawsuit, but his ended up being after the DA's lawsuit. The Attorney General did it the correct way, not the good old boy way. The Attorney General's office, Jeff Landry's office, filed the lawsuit against Robert Berry only, not the Cypress District, which means he's fixing to have to cut a pretty good check to Machota to defend him this time. Now, because of the shenanigans going on with the DA's lawsuit, like you should read some of these pleadings. I've got them all posted. Like they didn't even notify the AG's office out of courtesy of some filings and all this crazy stuff when you read this. But the AG's office has a separate lawsuit filed. I think that case is supposed to be around December the 10th. Well, the problem now is the AG's office tried to intervene and join the lawsuit with the DA's office. You would think the DA would welcome that. Guess what? They didn't. So,
I have heard this broken record before in the past. I can see a bad moon rising. I see some judicial notice going on here in the future.
well, there's something going on. So let me show you. This is, because several people have already asked. Oh, and there's Edward Burchett. He says, bingo. Thanks for watching, Ed. So let me show you this other screenshot right here. This is directly from the AG's office. I did pixel out the name and some of the content because it's not relevant to this. But anyway, let me read this for you. This is from the Attorney General's office directly today. It says, we intend to take every action necessary to see that the dual office holding law is upheld. We plan to proceed with the hearing on December 10th, 2020, and will appeal if necessary. So I don't think they're giving up at all. And here's the beauty of that. The AG's office is not part of this good old boy, pat everybody on the back, let's go have a fish fry, and everybody, wink and nod and do all that. The AG's office is well above all of that.
Looks like they don't have a fish fry in mind. Looks like they have the taxpayers in mind.
Looks like they're going to, look out for the taxpayers.
So, and I don't even know who the judge in this case, but what I said earlier was that I would suspect we're going to see the old card played of judicial notice where the judge in this case, after the fact, says, well, this case has already been heard by another judge, and I'm going to take judicial notice of that case and then say, you know what, this case is already decided.
Oh, it's almost like the DA's office planned this from the beginning to taint that case.
Not the DA's office. You can't say that.
The suit came from the DA's. The suit came from the DA. I'm not saying Skylar Marvin himself did it, but the suit came from the DA's office. Yeah, Patrick Jackson saying he wanted to see if the Attorney General was correct or not if Robert Barry was violating the law. I mean, come on.
Wait a minute. Patrick is the attorney for the police jury.
Yes. He is.
Well, a lot of people out there may not understand. How is it that he's the attorney for the police, but you're saying he represents the DA's office too?
That is correct. He's an assistant DA, but by law and statute, the DA's office for the parish is the one basically, I hate to use the word charged with, but basically legally should be representing the certain government entities, including, by the way, the Cypress District.
So if you're of the opinion that the taxpayers are getting screwed by the Cypress Black Bayou District and Robert Barry, basically you have only one elected official fighting for you, and that's the Attorney General of the state of Louisiana. The police jurymen.
Ding, 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 ding. We have a winner.
None of your police jurymen are fighting for you. The judges are, and I don't even know this judge, that case hasn't been heard yet, but I'm going to, I don't go to the boats and gamble, but I would put my wallet against that he's not going to rule in favor of the taxpayers. I don't know, with what's going on in the country, I mean, it almost sounds like people are justified to not have faith in the judicial or legal system.
Well, look, this is not rumor. This is not a whisper campaign. These are all facts. I've got most of the pleadings from the clerk of court's office. I've got them all in a publicly available Dropbox folder. People can go read the cases. No slight to Jill Sessions in her office, but we've got the documents so they can actually be reviewed now.
But conservative leaders.
Look, you got to take.
Everybody involved in this are all conservative leaders.
Miss Ann, and I think that's a great word, cesspool. Like full of, you know what. I'll try to keep it a child-friendly show for this evening. So here's the thing. I would argue we have very, very, very few actual leaders. We have people who want to play leaders. They want to play like they're Republicans and good conservatives, but they want to increase taxes 23 cents a gallon. They want to use the Republican committee here to endorse their favorite Republican over other Republicans. It's just out of control. It's nuts.
Rex. So I think from here, and Ann popping in there and saying cesspool brings up a pretty good point moving along here. Share my screen again. Share my screen again.
All right,
one time.
Let's get back to Duke.
There it is, right there. Do you think that's what's going on, or is that Rhino even? Is that really a Republican? I mean, I would argue that that's not really a Republican. That's really a Democrat saying, hey, we're conservative leaders and trying to take out the Republican or the conservative. And
okay,
and when you start talking about that includes their cohorts. I mean, maybe it's a contrarian in me coming out, but.
Well, all right, so let's take it out of conspiracy theory land, all right? For the Bossier Republican Executive Committee, what we call the PEC, for the PEC race, you mentioned earlier that there was a Democrat that ran. How can a Democrat run for a Republican committee? Well, the short answer is they can't. The long, good old boy answer is, they just need to change their party literally like the day they qualified or day before or whatever it was, and then have a court case in front of the right judge with the right attorney showing up in, I think he was in maybe a purple suit that day, and guess what? Poof, now you can have a lifelong Democrat run for the Republican committee. And almost won, because the Good Old Boys Network was trying to force out the actual dyed-in-the-wool conservative Republican in that race. And they almost got him out.
Well, it's my understanding that things have been getting a little heated lately. Like maybe our videos, while we know Facebook has been choking down all the politics, but I understand there's been some threats, and maybe these rhinos and moderates are getting a little hot under the collar. It's probably all you.
Well, okay, so again, let's get out of rumor mill and get out of conspiracy theory land, and let's just go with the facts. Here are some facts highlighted in yellow. So, again, a familiar name, who is chairman of the Republican Executive Committee, claims that they've had the PEC has had a request from the legislative auditor which requires the old minutes to respond as it involves the last 3 years of actions. All right.
Whoa, wait a minute. Okay, so what we're looking here is a text from Doug Rimmer to Ann Price. I mean, the epitome of Republican stuff.
Sure.
I mean, deputy chairwoman of the Republican Party.
She's the poster woman for the Republican Party around here and in large part around the state, for that matter.
All right, so I'm reading that, and he says, seriously, we've had a request from the legislative auditor which requires the old minutes to respond as it involves the last 3 years. What is he? That sounds like he's digging around looking for something.
Well, sounds like he's digging around for the minutes. But here's the truth, and let me repeat this very clearly and succinctly. the Legislative Auditor's Office doesn't care one little bit about the minutes of any meeting.
Oh, Rex, you're just talking again. That's just you.
Do you know how I know this, Duke? Because I've talked to the Legislative Auditor's Office in December of 2019, and as a matter of fact, just a few days ago, Mr. Rimmer.
No, he's a conservative leader. He's the chairman of the Republican Party.
Hey,
come on, Rex.
It's, what's that old saying, the pig and lipstick and whatever? I don't know.
He doesn't support no gas tax. Come on.
Right. It's just a rumor. So, let's jump forward to another text message. And this was a long exchange, so I just kind of picked out the highlights here. So let's take that off the screen and let's go to this one. And I'll read this. I am concerned that this failure to turn over records will get into the press with negative speculation and conjectures. Please let us know if you will comply to our repeated requests.
Well, to the press and conjecture and speculation and...
Well, here's the truth, people, and you can read it in the... Well, you can read you can read the response from Ann right there. I didn't highlight it, but it says, you've been in office 4.5 months, and yesterday is the first time anyone has asked for anything from me. There have been no repeated requests. In other words, shut the bleepity bleep up. Here's the truth. So after the Peck election, which was what, July, June, whenever it was? Anyway, about 30 days after that, Danny Perdue reached out to me as I was the treasurer for the last couple of years. And so I gave him the checkbook and my spreadsheet and all that and turned over everything that I had, including the logo that I drew and all of that, turned it over to him because, you know, he asked for it, super nice guy and all that. We don't hear a peep out of him. As a matter of fact, Doug Rimmer doesn't really even want to talk to Mike Collier hardly anymore. And then Doug starts digging. Miraculously, after we started mentioning this gas tax thing, all of a sudden, Rimmer's on his high horse and thinks that the Legislative Auditor's Office wants minutes. And he's picking on a retired school teacher. What is it with you, Doug, and library ladies and school teachers?
I don't know what to think here. Wait a minute. Whoa. Let's go back. You said that the Legislative Auditor's Office doesn't care.
Sure, they don't. 2 conversations. I had the exact same conversation. So let me set this up. So in 2019, I was digging through some of the statutes to clarify and verify whether the Republican Executive Committee meetings fall under open meetings laws. Because the Republican PEC and the Democratic PEC, by the way, are enabled by statutes. It's not like the Republican Women, which is a private organization. The Republican Executive Committee, and again the Democratic one, there's one set up for each parish. Whether the parishes have them or not is a different story. But they're enabled by statute. And so I was looking up stuff because I was arguing with one of our other PEC members about whether we fell under open meetings laws, and my contention was that we did. And so I pulled up, and I forget the statute number, I don't have it in front of me, but there's a yearly report that's supposed to be turned into the Legislative Auditor's Office. Well, the past treasurer didn't know about it or whatever, certainly didn't inform me about it, so I called the Legislative Auditor's Office. Hey, how big a trouble are we in for this? Her answer was, and I'm only just slightly paraphrasing, but her answer was, we're not really worried about those because it's not very efficient for office to chase that down because the people change so much and we're not worried about it. So she said,
making that up.
She said, if you have the information for the last couple of years or whatever and want to turn it in, fine, and they post the report online and all that. But otherwise, she literally said they weren't worried about it. Okay, so we had to, finish our chat and all that and got the information ready and all that. Well, now, fast forward almost a year later, we start talking about, some raising gas taxes. And miraculously, somebody's on their high horse about meeting minutes, which the Legislative Auditor's Office doesn't care about.
So I'm reading down here in this bottom of this thing. So you're saying Doug Rimmer saying the legislative auditor's office is hell bent on getting the minutes of these meetings, getting these documents.
That's correct.
And Doug Rimmer's going to the level of, and I'm reading down here in this text message thing here, don't further tarnish your record of service. How has Ann Price tarnished her record of service?
I don't know.
And
she's literally a walking Republican poster lady.
And he's even we will then pursue other avenues that won't bode well for you and your cohort. What is he going to do?
Well, I don't know. What was that? Wait, what was that name that you mentioned?
People, and who are cohorts?
Well, wait a minute now. What was that name that you mentioned a little while? What was that guy's name? Richard Ray.
Richard Ray, another conservative leader.
So I'm just asking the question here. I don't have any basis for this. I'm just asking the question. Was Doug talking to Richard and they're going to file a lawsuit and against cohorts? I'm not sure what they're going to file the lawsuit over, but it sounds threatening.
What is it? Again, I'm from Halton and my vocabulary is limited, but a cohort, what exactly is a cohort?
Well, a cohort is, think of it in the old days when you had banditos running around and you had the head bandito and he had all his cohorts running around with him. That would be a good, quick analogy.
I think I got it. Is that like a cross between contrarian and something else?
Well, yeah, and look, so I just pulled it up, and the technical definition, according to Google, is a group of people banded together or treated as a group. And that sounds relatively innocent, right? But the problem is you have to look at the context of the text message here. And again, that's why I put the whole paragraph so you could see the context, not taking anything out of context. He says right there, some people may think you and others might have something to hide. They were public meetings, Doug. We literally invited the public, unlike you guys.
So does this mean if we're cohorts, I'm assuming he was talking about us as well. If we're cohorts and we're cohorts with Ann Price, does that mean we're not conservative leaders?
Maybe we're not conservative because we don't want to raise gas taxes. And we don't want to wait for the gas price to go down so we can raise the gas taxes and pray nobody notices.
Well, I mean, wait a minute. We're not standing on, so they're a group of cohorts. We're a group of cohorts, but they self-describe themselves as conservative leaders. And there's a whole bunch of them standing together. I mean, Richard Ray, Allie Feaster-Smith, Doug Rimmer, all those conservative leaders, we don't stand in that, so we're not conservative leaders then, I guess.
I have a new term for them. It's why I don't use rhino anymore, because it's so diluted down and washed out. They're literally liberal Republicans. They may as well be Democrats for all I care, but they don't stand for and espouse our true party values. Period. End of quote. I'm calling them out right now.
Well, I just don't know that you're being honest here about the legislative auditor. I'm wondering about that.
Well, would you like to actually hear the phone call?
But Doug Rimmer, a conservative leader, and his cohort said that the legislative auditor was looking for that.
Yeah, well, he lied.
They threatened Ann Price and her cohorts.
Well, you know me, I'm not politically correct. I don't say somebody misspoke or anything like that. He just flat out lied, and he's threatening Ann Price. I mean, it is what it is. Let's listen.
I was just trying to determine, is this something that the legislative auditor's office had reached out and requested the backdated reports? Because based on our conversation, a year ago, you had said your office wasn't really worried about that.
No, we weren't. I mean, we're not, like I said, we're not actively pursuing it just, it's not an efficient use of time, I guess.
Okay.
Not an efficient use of time. Again, not an efficient use of time. And she went on to say, because Doug made it out like in this text tirade that went on, Doug made it out like the legislative auditor's office had requested this information. No, Doug, that's not what happened. Danny Perdue reached out to the legislative auditor's office, and they mentioned that there were some old records that needed to be updated. That's what happened. Period. End of quote.
But conjecture, speculation, and I mean cohorts, and he said all those things.
Well, you can say all you want. He just flat out lied.
He's a conservative leader, and he's making threats and saying that the legislative, but that lady just said that it's not worth their time.
Well, at least he was smart enough to do, wait, at least he was smart enough to do these messages by text message, because that way we can have complete context and there's no discrepancy in what he said. I'm so glad that Doug was smart enough to do that by text message. Thank you, Doug.
Well, I wonder who's with him and is making these threats. I mean, is that the Bossier Parish Republican Executive Committee? Is it his cohorts, the conservative leaders?
Well, wait a minute. I want to call your attention again to the highlighted area at the bottom right there in that screenshot. He doesn't say before he takes further action. He says, I am giving you until Monday noon to comply before our RPEC initiates further actions. It's like he's asking for a showdown at high noon.
And so all the RPEC members are the ones that are making the threats that they're going to take action.
All right, so I got to ask you, hold on. You're still on the RPEC. So are you standing behind this threat?
This first I'm hearing of it and seeing it. I'm not making any threats.
So the chairman of the Republican Party says, he lied, but he says that the legislative auditor's office is requesting minutes of the meeting, and he's willing to go full bore, threaten a lawsuit, threaten to, I don't know, maybe he's going to call John Settle at the Inquisitor. Go ahead. He's willing to threaten the RPEC is going to do that, but you're telling me he didn't reach out to every member to get their opinion first?
Didn't ask me. I mean, maybe the rest of the RPEC is supportive of it. Maybe they're.
But wait a minute. Wait a minute. I want to play this clip too, and this is when when the police jury fired the little library ladies. So I want to play this clip too. So hold on.
So we have to do our best to follow the rules, and you heard it from our parish attorney. That's the rule, and so we're going to follow the rule.
So you're telling me that Rimmer doesn't actually follow the rule like he says he follows the rule unless it's firing little library ladies?
We are a bastion of rules with our conservative leaders in Bossier Parish. Boy, I'll tell you. But with that said, I'm going to say even Doug Rimmer doesn't get the Rule Breaker of the Week award.
Oh, who would that go to?
Well, it goes to a lady that's not one of our cohorts, I don't believe. In fact, I think she's actively worked against all of us repeatedly. But let me see if I can.
Yeah, just tell me when you're ready and I'll share it out.
Go ahead.
Okay, let's flip over to Duke's screen. Oh, wait, what is that?
That's the Republican Women of Bossier proudly endorse Georgia Senate candidates.
Wait a minute. It's got to be Bossier County in Georgia, but that logo looks familiar. I know that's the logo that I helped redraw for them.
Did you redraw that logo?
Well, yes, I did several years ago, and I'm proud to do it. Logo. So
that is definitely the Republican Women of Bossier.
But why are the Republican Women of Bossier endorsing somebody in a Georgia race?
Well, no, they can't endorse anybody.
Oh, they can't?
Well, there's Jane Smith right there. She shared it. I mean, obviously they did.
I'm just thoroughly confused. But wait, they're also asking to provide financial support.
Oh, they're fundraising too.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, if you're not technically a political party, how can you do that? And wait a minute, she was on the ethics board, wasn't she?
I think so. Now, let me give her an out. So let me play devil's advocate for a second. The Republican Women of Bossier is a private group. So how does that change the rules? Now, they say Republican, so you think this is an official thing, but really they're a private group, correct?
I think that they're like a tax-exempt organization or something of that. I know they're not supposed to endorse. Why are they now doing it?
Here's the thing, to me, is the Republican Women of Bossier has grown pretty good in the last few years, to their credit. They have lots of nice meetings and lots of handshaking and lots of kissing babies and all that good thing that politicians do. But, you know, it's kind of one of those things where they come across and purport themselves to actually be the Republican Party in Bossier. And look, there's a lot of Republicans in that group, men and women.
Absolutely. I've been in it for years, but the Republican women are not supposed to endorse. But apparently they are now. I mean,
and they're fundraising.
Jane Smith is the president or the chairman of it now.
Right. Oh yeah, she's been bouncing around and kind of moving back up the chain again. So
now wait a minute. In all fairness, she may not have done this.
Oh, that's true. I'm pretty sure she is Jane H. Smith, though, so she did share it out. I mean, that's, you know, tacitly rubber stamping it.
Well, if you created the logo, who else has access to do the posting on behalf of the Republican women?
You know, it's been a couple of years. I know that Allie Feaster Smith, oh, there's that name again. I know that Allie did at least a couple of years ago because I shared that out to her. I'm actually still in the group, and I think I was a moderator at one time, but they certainly don't let me moderate anything. Hey, I tried to share Miss Ann's State Central Committee little video out in the Republican Women's group, and guess what? They
shut it down?
Well, they just never approved it. You have to have post approval. That's okay, but they never approved it. Do you know that Miss Ann is like one of the founding members of the Republican Women of Bossier?
But Allie Feaster Smith and Jane Smith, those are conservative leaders.
Right. That's all I'm going to say. Keep telling yourself that, Duke.
And the Republican women are not supposed to endorse, yet they're endorsing. But maybe this is just one time that they did this.
Well, we'll kind of start wrapping up here in a minute because we're right at an hour mark. But let me give you a quote from somebody a few years ago. And this was concerning the Republican PEC. All right? That the Republican PEC was almost irrelevant. That's a direct quote.
Yeah.
A direct quote from somebody who has been called a rhino and a Democrat and a liberal and everything under the sun. You know what the funny thing about that is? Ryan Gaddy was pretty much right. Because of this infiltration, and instead of actually standing by the rules and standing on principles, it's just a stepping stone. They're using it for their own literal political gain to further themselves in politics. Look, I have no problem with people running for office, obviously, and then running for a future office, but it's just a breeding ground for career politicians. Not Republicans, politicians. Oh. Well, who would that be?
You mean like this?
Wait, I see a familiar, I see more than one familiar name, but one of them really stands out in the red down at the bottom.
Taking care of friends and using things to benefit. Yeah, right there, Republican Women of Bossier again.
I wonder if she reached out like Doug Rimmer obviously must have before he sent the threats to Miss Ann. I wonder if Jane reached out to the other members of the Republican Women of Bossier, women and men, and got their approval or feedback before doing that. Look, it's one thing if she says, you know, I'm Jane Smith and I'm a very conservative Republican, whatever she wants to, whatever spill she wants to use, and I endorse Lorene Spratt. Okay, that's her personal endorsement. But to use the organization, it's crossing a line.
All right.
It's crossing a line.
Well, you're right in what you were saying, that the end result is a watering down of the Republican Party and conservatism, because what will end up happening, and not saying Lorraine Spratt, I mean, she's probably a fine lady, don't know her or anything about her, but, you know, the Republican Party is going to be weakened, and conservatism is weakened by the actions of people calling themselves conservative leaders when they're using things for their own personal gain. It's that simple.
You said it perfectly, and unfortunately, you're exactly correct. And with that, let's start wrapping it up. But look, folks, there's I don't know, about 10 people or so watching now, maybe more than that, whatever. This is exactly why we're doing Bossier Watch. This is why we, go down these rabbit holes. It's exactly what Duke said. It's a watering down. And look, we're not just looking out for Republicans, but the truth is we're a very Republican parish. And so most of the stuff we're going to talk about is Republican stuff, except like Jerry Fowler, who was a Democrat until he kind of figured out he wanted to be a Republican. This is exactly why we're doing this. Duke said it best. It's watering it down. It's almost making the Republican Party a mockery in Bossier Parish. And I, for one, can't stand that as a lifelong Republican. I'm not going to tolerate it. I'm going to call them out every time.
I can't say it any better. I think we should shut it down from there.
That's it for tonight, folks. Go tell your friends, tag some friends, share out some friends. Go talk to Doug Rimmer, go talk to Jane Smith, come talk to us, whatever. Let us know. We'll see you next episode.